The automatic doors of the Royal View Hotel slid open, letting a rush of cool air, welcoming Marcus King as he stepped inside. The lobby was just as grand as usual, high ceilings with crystal chandeliers, shiny marble floors that reflected the soft lighting, and a quiet atmosphere of luxury that showed wealth and exclusivity. Marcus adjusted the cuffs of his custom-made blue suit, his expensive cologne filling the air around him. He was a regular, here one of the most powerful men in the wine business. Marcus King, at just 35 years old, had turned King Wines into a global brand, exporting fine wines across Africa and Europe. This hotel had been his second home for years, a place of comfort during his busy business trips. At the reception desk, Amina, a long-time receptionist who knew his routine, straightened up and gave him a warm but professional smile. "Good evening, Mr. King. Welcome back to Royal View. We've been expecting you." Marcus gave a brief nod, his sharp eyes scanning the lobby as he pulled out his phone. "Evening, Amina. My usual suite? Penthouse Suite 709. As always, sir. We've stocked the minibar with your preferred wines." Marcus looked up, meeting her gaze. "Great. I trust my luggage is already in the room?" "Yes, sir. Your assistant had it delivered earlier." "Would you like a dinner reservation for tonight?" Marcus checked the time. 7:15 p.m. He had a business dinner with investors at one of the city's top restaurants. "Not tonight. I have a meeting. Just make sure my suite remains untouched until I return." "Understood, sir," Amina said, handing him his keycard. Marcus pocketed it without another word and walked toward the exit. As he did, a young woman in a neatly pressed housekeeping uniform hurried past, struggling to carry a basket of fresh linens. She was new, he could tell by the nervous energy in her steps. Sophie, the new housekeeper, barely noticed the tall, commanding man in front of her as she rushed toward the elevators. It was her first week, and she was determined not to make any mistakes. "Just one more floor," she muttered to herself. "Just one more floor, and then I can finally rest." Marcus didn't spare her a second glance as he left the hotel and got into his waiting black Mercedes-Benz. Tonight's meeting was a crucial deal that could expand his company's reach. But while he focused on business, fate was preparing for a night that would change everything. The city lights of the capital flickered like stars as Marcus sat in the back seat of his black Mercedes-Benz, his eyes scanning his phone screen. The low hum of the engine mixed with the distant sounds of traffic, but he barely noticed. His mind was fixed on the meeting ahead. His driver, Tariq, adjusted the rearview mirror and glanced at him. "Sir, should I take the usual route to the Grand Place?" Marcus checked the time on his watch. 7:30 p.m. He had exactly 30 minutes before his dinner meeting. He hated being late. "Yes, Tariq. Make sure there's no delay." The car pulled away from the Royal View Hotel, gliding through the lively streets. The city was alive, bright billboards flashing, people moving between street vendors, and the air filled with the sounds of laughter and music from nearby clubs. But Marcus remained focused. Tonight's meeting was important. He was meeting with high-profile investors from France who could help expand King Wines into Europe. If the deal went through, his company would be more than just a local success. It would be a global powerhouse. But Marcus wasn't the type to get excited. Business was about control, power, and precision. And tonight, he was determined to close the deal. As Tariq smoothly drove through the streets, Marcus leaned back, exhaling slowly. It was going to be a long night. Meanwhile, inside the Royal View Hotel, Sophie pushed her housekeeping cart down the hallway of the 7th floor. It had been a long day cleaning, dusting, and making beds in over a dozen rooms. Every muscle in her body ached, but she couldn't stop now. Stopping in front of Penthouse Suite 709, she pulled out her master key. "Just one more room, and then I can finally go home," she muttered. She slid the key into the door, and it clicked open. The suite was as grand as she expected: high ceilings, velvet curtains, soft carpets, and a king-size bed positioned perfectly against the glass wall with a view of the city skyline. The air smelled like luxury expensive cologne, fresh roses, and polished wood. She quickly went to work fluffing pillows, replacing towels, and dusting the counters. The exhaustion weighed on her, and as she smoothed the bed sheets, she sat on the edge of the mattress for just a second. A deep yawn escaped her lips. "Just a minute," Sophie whispered. "I just need 1 minute to breathe." The bed was soft, much softer than anything she had at home. Her eyelids grew heavy, and before she could stop herself, she slowly lay back. Within seconds, she drifted into sleep. She didn't hear the door open, nor did she see Marcus step inside. The suite was dimly lit, with the soft glow of the bedside lamp casting golden light across the room. Marcus stepped inside, his sharp gaze sweeping over the familiar, elegance-polished furniture, velvet curtains framing the balcony doors, and the faint scent of roses in the air. He loosened his tie with one hand, rolling his stiff shoulders. It had been a long night. The meeting had gone well. King Wines had secured an exclusive deal with French investors, but the stress of negotiations had left him tired. All he wanted now was a shower and a good night's rest. But as he walked into the room, something felt off. His brow furrowed. The bed's perfectly made king-size bed had a figure lying on top of it. Marcus's sharp eyes locked onto the unfamiliar sight. Someone was lying there, deeply asleep. Her small frame rose and fell with steady breaths. She wasn't covered by the blankets, just sprawled out, her hands tucked under her cheek, like a child who had fallen asleep in the middle of a thought. His entire body tensed. Who was in his bed? For a moment, he wondered if the hotel had made a mistake, perhaps given his suite to someone else. But no, his luggage was neatly placed in the corner. His laptop was exactly where he'd left it earlier. This was his room. Then his eyes fell on the uniform, the unmistakable white and navy blue of a housekeeper's attire. A housekeeper, sleeping in his bed. A sharp flash of irritation surged through him. He'd been staying at the Royal View Hotel for years and never had anything like this happened. His deep, commanding voice broke the silence. "Who are you?" The woman didn't move. Marcus's jaw tightened. He took another step forward, standing beside the bed. He could now see her face's smooth skin, soft lips parted as she breathed, and thick lashes resting against her cheeks. There was an innocence in the way she slept, a peacefulness that clashed with the audacity of her presence. But Marcus wasn't moved by innocence. He was moved by order and efficiency, and this was neither. His voice grew harder. "Wake up." No response. "Enough of this." He reached out, placing a firm hand on her shoulder and shaking her. "I said wake up." Sophie woke with a sharp gasp, her heart pounding as reality hit her. Her mind was still foggy from sleep, but the first thing she saw was him, tall, broad-shouldered, and staring down at her with an unreadable expression. His piercing eyes burned into her, his jaw set firmly in quiet authority. For half a second, her brain refused to process what was happening. Then, like a cold splash of water, it hit her. She was in his bed, Marcus King's bed. Sophia felt her entire body freeze. She had heard the other housekeepers talk about him, the billionaire, who owned one of Ghana's biggest wine companies. The man who never smiled, never wasted words, and expected everything to be perfect. He was the most important guest, a VIP who demanded excellence. And now, she had fallen asleep in his room. Panic rushed through her. She couldn't finish her sentence. Marcus took a step back, crossing his arms. His face gave nothing away, but his voice was calm, almost too calm. "Care to explain why you're in my room?" Sophia's breathing was fast and shallow. I didn't mean to. I was cleaning, and I sat down for a moment, and I didn't realize." Her words stumbled out in a panic as she jumped up from the bed, almost tripping over herself while straightening her uniform. Her heart raced as she grabbed her cleaning cart, her fingers shaking. "I swear, sir, I didn't mean to. It was a mistake. Please, I'll leave right away. I won't let this happen again." She hurried to the door, thinking only about escaping before he could call the manager and have her fired. But his voice stopped her. "Hold on." Her breath caught. Slowly, she turned around, every part of her wanting to run. Marcus was still watching her, but now his expression had changed, not just anger, but curiosity. "What's your name?" For a moment, she hesitated. "Sophia, sir." A long silence stretched between them. Then, after a pause, he sighed and stepped back. "Fine, go." She didn't need to be told twice. Gripping her cart, she pushed it out the door and hurried down the hall, her pulse pounding. As the door clicked behind her, she put a hand over her chest, trying to catch her breath. That was too close. Inside the suite, Marcus rubbed his jaw, letting out a slow breath. What a strange night. But for some reason, he felt sure this wasn't the last time he'd see her. Marcus stood by the huge windows of his penthouse suite, looking out over Accra. The lights of the city glowed softly below, and the hum of traffic filled the air. But his mind wasn't on the view. It was on the housekeeper who had accidentally fallen asleep in his bed. He frowned slightly as he thought about her. Her terrified look, the way she stammered, looking so scared. He had expected an excuse, or maybe an attitude. But there was something about her, something interesting. With a deep breath, he picked up the hotel phone and called reception. The voice on the other end answered quickly. "Good evening, Mr. King. How can we assist you?" Marcus leaned against the desk, his voice calm. "I'd like to order dinner in my room." "Of course, sir. What would you like?" Marcus looked over the menu on the tablet beside him. "Grilled tilapia with jollof rice and a bottle of red wine. Something smooth." "Excellent choice, sir. We'll bring it right up." Marcus hesitated for a second before adding, "And send Sophie to bring it." There was a pause. "Sir?" Marcus's fingers drummed against the desk. "You heard me." The receptionist quickly recovered. "Understood, Mr. King. Your order will be delivered shortly." Marcus hung up and set the phone down. He wasn't sure why he had asked for her. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the way she had looked so small but determined when she apologized. Either way, he'd see her again. And this time, he'd pay attention. Sophia gripped the tray tightly, her hands shaking as she walked toward the penthouse. The tray held grilled tilapia, steaming jollof rice, and a bottle of red wine. This should have been an ordinary task, delivering food to a guest. But this wasn't just any guest, it was him, the billionaire CEO, the man who could fire her with one word. Her breath was shaky as she knocked softly on the door. "Come in." Sophia swallowed and pushed the door open. Marcus was already sitting in a chair near the dining table, his jacket off, sleeves rolled up to show his strong arms. He held a glass of wine, and when she walked in, his dark eyes lit up with something that almost looked like amusement. "Ah, so they sent you." She lowered her head and quickly placed the tray on the table. "Yes, sir. Your food." Marcus didn't move. He just watched her, his gaze calm and steady. Kara felt his eyes on her, making her heart race. Then, unexpectedly, he gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit." Sophia's breath caught. Her eyes widened. Did she hear him right? "Sit." "Sir?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Sit. Let's talk." Her heart almost stopped. "Talk?" She shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I shouldn't be here. I should go." Marcus sighed, swirling his wine before setting the glass down. "You think I'm going to report you?" Sophia swallowed hard. "You should, sir. My manager should fire me for what happened." Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Why would I do that?" She hesitated. "Because I fell asleep in your bed. It was unprofessional. I disrespected your space." A small smirk appeared on Marcus's lips. "Unprofessional, yes. Disrespectful? No. You didn't steal from me or break anything. You just slept." He paused, then tilted his head. "And honestly, you looked comfortable." Sophia's face turned red. "Sir, please." Marcus leaned back. "Relax. You're not getting fired." Her breath caught. "I'm not? No. I don't see a reason to." He picked up his fork and pointed to the chair again. "Now sit, before I change my mind." Sophia hesitated. Every part of her told her to run, to leave, before things got worse. But the way Marcus was looking at her, it felt like he wasn't giving her a choice. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if that scared her or excited her. For the next few days, Sophia tried to avoid him. She worked on different floors, staying far away from the penthouse. She stuck to cleaning empty rooms, restocking supplies, and handling laundry, anything to keep from running into Marcus. But he had other plans. It started with simple requests. Marcus asking for extra towels, needing fresh fruit, wanting a special tea blend. And every time, he made sure Sophia was the one sent to his room. At first, she protested. "Mr. King, there are other housekeepers." But the receptionist only smiled. "Yes, but he keeps asking for you." And so, despite all her instincts telling her to keep her distance, she found herself knocking on his door again and again. One evening, she arrived with a tray of fresh pineapple slices and herbal tea. Marcus was already waiting, dressed casually in a navy shirt and gray slacks, his sleeves rolled up in that way that made her heart race. As she set the tray down, he leaned back, watching her with quiet amusement. "You keep trying to avoid me." Sophia stiffened. That's not true, sir. Marcus smirked. Then why do you run away every time I ask for something? She looked away, nervously fiddling with a napkin. I'm not running, I'm just busy. He chuckled. I see. And yet, here you are. Sophia's breath caught as he leaned forward slightly, his eyes locking with hers. Sit. His voice was softer this time, almost inviting. Her hands gripped her uniform. She shouldn't, but somehow, again, against all logic, she did. She sat on the edge of the couch, her body tense, her heart pounding. Marcus poured himself a cup of tea, then casually poured one for her as well. Tell me about yourself, Sophia. She blinked. He nodded. Yes, you work here. But what else? What do you dream about? Sophia hesitated. No guest had ever asked her something personal, before, especially not a billionaire. But something about the way he looked at her, like he truly wanted to know, made her heart race. So, for the first time, she let her guard down. That night, over tea and soft laughter, something between them changed. Days turned into weeks, and Marcus found excuses to see Sophia almost every evening. It became a quiet routine. She would bring him something to his room, and somehow, he'd persuade her to stay a little longer. She didn't know how it happened, but she started looking forward to Elohim. She knew she was taking a risk, but there was something about him. Something that drew her in, despite all her doubts. One evening, as she cleared his table after dinner, Thomas leaned against the counter, watching her closely. Sophia, she turned, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Yes, sir? Come work for me. She froze. What? Marcus's expression was calm, but his eyes were serious. Come work for my company. I need a new personal assistant. Sophia laughed nervously. Sir, 2 clean hotel rooms. I don't have experience in an office. He shrugged. Then I'll train you. She shook her head. I don't understand. Why are you offering me this? Marcus set his glass down and stepped closer. Because I see something in you, Sophia. You're smart, hardworking, and you deserve more than this. Her heart skipped a beat. Two don't know what to say. Marcus smiled softly, his voice gentle. Say yes. Sophia's heart raced. Was this really happening? She'd spent years working in this hotel, always behind the scenes. No one had really noticed her before, but Marcus did. And, for the first time in her life, someone believed she could be more.
Marcus stood at the reception desk, adjusting his suit, as the receptionist handed him his bill. Everything's settled, Mr. King. Do you need help with your bags? She asked politely. Marcus shook his head, then glanced at the woman behind the desk. Please call Sophia for me. The receptionist raised an eyebrow but nodded. Right away, sir. Sophia's heart raced when she heard her name. Why did he want to see her now? She quickly wiped her hands on her uniform and hurried to the reception, where Marcus stood, checking his watch. As soon as she reached him, she instinctively reached for his suitcase. Let me carry that for you, sir. Marcus gently stopped her hand. No, Sophia. I can carry my own bag. His voice was firm but amused. I called you because I wanted to see you before I leave. Sophia bit her lip, unsure what to say. They stepped outside, where his sleek black car was waiting. The driver was already standing by the door. Marcus turned to her, his expression unreadable. Have you thought about my offer? Sophia hesitated. Truthfully, she hadn't stopped thinking about it, but stepping into his world full of power, money, and business felt terrifying. Marcus must have sensed her hesitation because he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. He handed it to her. Take your time, but when you're ready, come find me. Her fingers trembled as she took the card. King's Corporation CEO, Marcus King. She looked up, and for a moment, their eyes locked. Then, with a small nod, Marcus slid into the car. The driver shut the door, and just like that, he was gone. Days passed, but the business card never left Sophia's bedside table. She'd pick it up, run her fingers over the raised letters, then set it down again. Could she really do this? She had spent so many years cleaning rooms. Was she meant for more? But then she thought of Marcus, the way he looked at her, like she mattered. Like she could be more than just a housekeeper. And so, one morning, after a restless night, she made a decision. She stepped into the tall glass building that bore his name, King's Corporation. Her heart raced as she approached the receptionist. Tomb here to see Mr. King. The receptionist gave her a look, clearly unimpressed by her simple outfit. "Do you have an appointment?" Sophia held up the card Thomas had given her. "He told me to come." The receptionist frowned, but before she could respond, a deep voice called out from across the room, "Sophia." She turned, and there he was. Marcus stood near the elevator, his eyes locking with her surprise flashing across his face before it softened into something else. Something almost like satisfaction. She had come. Sophia sat stiffly in the plush leather chair inside Marcus King's office. The room was nothing like she had imagined. Modern, sleek, but warm, with wooden accents and a stunning view of the city skyline. She clasped her hands tightly in her lap, her heart racing. Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbows on his desk. His dark eyes focused on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Sophia, I asked you to come here because I want you to work with me." She swallowed hard. "I appreciate the offer, sir." He interrupted her. "Marcus. Call me Marcus." Sophia nodded slowly. "Marcus. But I still don't understand why you're doing this. There are more qualified people than me." Marcus sighed and stood up, walking around the desk until he was standing directly in front of her. He leaned against the edge, looking down at her in a way that sent a strange warmth through her. "I didn't bring you here just for the job, Sophia." She frowned. "Then why?" His voice was steady, unwavering. "Because I like you." The words hung in the air, heavy and unexpected. Sophia's breath caught. Had she heard him right? Marcus continued, his tone firm. "I'm 35 years old, Sophia. I don't have time to waste. I know what I want, and what I want is you." Her mouth fell open in surprise. "Me?" He nodded. "Yes. I don't believe in wasting time. I've been thinking about this for weeks. I don't just want you working with me. I want to marry you." Sophia's mind spun. Marriage? This wasn't just a confession of love, it was a direct, confident proposal. She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of a joke, but all she saw was raw sincerity. "Marcus, too. Don't know what to say." He smiled softly. "Say yes." Her whole world felt like it was spinning. This man, this billionaire, wanted her. She had spent her life cleaning rooms, staying in the background. How had she ended up here? She hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. But deep down, something told her this was right. She took a deep breath, then slowly nodded. "Yes?" Marcus's lips curled into a satisfied smile. "Good, because I don't plan on letting you go." Months passed, and Sophia's life had changed in ways she never imagined. She wasn't just a housekeeper anymore, not the quiet girl who stayed in the background. She was now Sophia Mills, the woman by Marcus King's side, his confidant, his partner, and the one who made him happiest. At first, it was overwhelming entering the business world, sitting in meetings with important executives who didn't think much of her, going to fancy parties where people whispered as she walked by. But Marcus stood by her through it all, guiding her, supporting her, believing in her even when she had doubts. With his help, she grew. She took business classes, learned about the wine industry, and even began managing small projects at Marcus's company. The same hands that used to clean hotel rooms were now signing contracts, making important decisions, and showing everyone what she was capable of. But more than anything, she had fallen in love. Marcus was patient, caring, and always there for her. He didn't just say he loved her. He showed it through his actions. Every glance, every gentle touch, every long conversation about dreams had all built the strong bond they shared. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Marcus's mansion, watching the city below, he took her hand. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. Sarah turned to look at him, her heart full. "Regret? What do you mean?" "Taking my offer. Saying yes to this. To us." His voice was soft, showing a side of him that wasn't easy to see in a man like him. She smiled and held his hand tightly. "Never. You changed my life, Marcus. But most of all, you made me believe I deserve more." He sighed, gently brushing his thumb over her hand. "You always deserve more, Sophia. I just had to help you see it." The city lights below sparkled, but nothing was brighter than the future they had built together. Their story wasn't perfect. It wasn't the usual kind of love story, but it was their story, and that was enough. Thank you so much for watching.